Imagine this. You've worked a lifetime, weathered storms, raised children, built memories. Now, as the sun sets softer and the days move slower, you finally have something that cannot be bought. Time. Time to sit quietly in your garden. Time to listen to the soft laughter of grandchildren. Time to simply breathe without rushing. Old age, if anything, should be the harvest of peace, the season where life no longer demands from you, but instead offers gentle moments of reflection, gratitude and calm. And yet, this peace, as precious as it is, remains fragile. Not because of the years behind you, not because of the body that tires faster, but because of the people you choose to keep close. You see, in youth, we can afford to be reckless with our relationships, tolerating drama, noise, and betrayal, believing we have endless chances to heal. But in old age, every conversation matters. Every interaction leaves a deeper imprint. Your emotional space becomes sacred, and who you allow into that space will either nourish your spirit or slowly poison your joy. Stoic philosophers taught that while we cannot always control what happens around us, we can and must control who we invite into our circle. Epictetus said, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." Because the truth is simple and brutal. At this stage, you're either surrounded by gardens or weeds. And weeds, no matter how familiar they seem, will choke the life out of the most beautiful garden if you let them. Some people, without meaning to, will bring nothing but complaints, envy, manipulation, and sadness into your precious days. Others will uplift you, listen, smile genuinely, and remind you that even now, life is still beautiful. Your peace is not a coincidence. It is a consequence, one of who you choose to walk with. In today's video, we are going to walk through the 8 types of people you must avoid if you wish to protect your serenity and live your elder years with dignity, strength, and inner radiance. Not with bitterness, but with wisdom. Not by closing your heart, but by guarding it with the care it deserves, because you have given enough. Now it's your turn to receive life's final, most sacred gift, peace. Stay with me until the end, because what you'll learn today may not just change your relationships, it might save your soul from unnecessary suffering. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to stay with me until the very end. Because sometimes, all it takes is a little clarity to reclaim your peace. And if you find value here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need it too. Let's begin this journey together. Type number 1. The chronic complainer. Shield your peace. There's something magical about a quiet afternoon. You sit on a park bench. The sun rests gently on your shoulders, warm but not overwhelming. A soft breeze tugs at your sleeves, and birds above carry on a conversation only they can understand. It's not perfection, but it's peace. And in that stillness, you feel whole. Then, without warning, someone sits beside you. They sigh, they complain about the heat, they grumble about the birds. They scan the park and mutter, "So many people, can't even relax." And just like that, your moment begins to dissolve. Not in a dramatic way, no outburst, no conflict, just a slow dimming, like a candle losing its flame to the wind. This is what it's like to be near someone who carries a storm inside them, the chronic complainer. Not loud, not cruel, just quietly, persistently negative. And their words, they seep in, they settle, they stain. Because over time, we begin to absorb the tone of those around us. Their discontent starts to echo in our own minds. What was once a simple joy becomes something we second-guess. And that's the danger. Not in their presence, but in their effect. Especially in our later years when peace is no longer just a luxury, but a necessity. You've lived enough life to know that the weather doesn't need your commentary, that birds will sing regardless of how you feel about them, and that crowds in a park mean life is still moving, and that's something worth celebrating, not criticizing. But not everyone sees it that way. Some have spent so long staring at the shadows, they've forgotten the sun exists. Still, Stoicism reminds us we are not here to fix others. We are here to manage our own minds. As Epictetus said, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. So you don't need to argue. You don't need to debate. You don't even need to correct their thinking. What you need is an emotional umbrella, an invisible, unshakable stillness that shields your spirit, a quiet decision that says, I will not carry a storm inside my sky. Let them speak. Let them sigh. Let them complain. And then, gently, offer a different lens. Yes, it's hot, but I'm grateful to feel the sun again. Yes, the world is noisy, but isn't it beautiful that it's still turning? This is not denial. It is discipline, a commitment to protect your energy, not by running from others, but by choosing what you let in. Because the truth is, not everyone learns to see the light. But you can, and you must. You've come too far to let someone else's unresolved bitterness color your days. You are not their therapist. You are not their mirror. You are simply a soul who deserves stillness. So when the chronic complainer appears, let them speak if they must. But don't let them rewrite your mood. Don't let their gray become your weather. Your peace is sacred. Guard it like the treasure it is. Not everyone will understand, but those who do, they'll feel it when they sit beside you. And maybe, just maybe, your calm will remind them that joy still exists, even on a noisy, sunny, crowded day. Type number 2. The Secret Envious protect your light from hidden shadows. It was supposed to be a small, happy moment. You met up with an old friend at your favorite cafe, the one with the creaky wooden floors and the smell of fresh pastries that somehow made everything feel softer. You hadn't seen each other in a while. Life had a way of pulling you in different directions. But today, you were excited. Over coffee, you shared a little piece of your heart. You finally started writing that book you always talked about. Not for fame, not for anyone else, just for you. For a second, she smiled. A flash of teeth, a polite nod. That's nice, she said, stirring her cup a little too quickly. But really, at your age, isn't it a bit late for dreams? She laughed, lightly, as if it were a joke. But the laughter didn't land right. It hung in the air like smoke, choking something small and tender inside you. You brushed it off, changed the subject, talked about the weather, about the news, about anything else. But later, at home, sitting quietly with yourself, the words echoed. At your age. Too late. And a little voice whispered inside, maybe she's right. This is the quiet wound left by the secret envious, not the friend who argues with you openly. No, that's easy to face. But the one who quietly withdraws when you shine. The one who claps with her hands but not with her heart. The one who smiles when you succeed, and then looks away uneasy because your growth reminds her of her own forgotten dreams. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it cuts deeper than we like to admit. And if you're not careful, you start doing their work for them. You shrink, you stay silent, you stop dreaming. Not because you're wrong to want more, but because you're afraid to make others uncomfortable. Stoicism teaches us something vital here. No tree grows tall without weathering the winds. Epictetus. Your growth, your joy, your becoming, it's not an offense. It's life unfolding as it should. You are not responsible for other people's discomfort with your light. You don't have to apologize for blooming. Here's what you can do instead. Hold your joy sacred. Not every garden needs to be open to every visitor. Some flowers are meant to be protected. Strengthen your roots. When your confidence grows inward, no passing shade can truly diminish you. Choose your conversations wisely. Share your dreams with those who water them, not those who wilt them. Be kind, yes. Be compassionate, always. But do not dim yourself to make someone else more comfortable. Their hidden envy is not your burden to carry. Their discomfort is not your reason to shrink. Your dreams, at any age, are sacred. Your peace, At every stage is worth protecting. And those who truly love you, they'll celebrate every flower you dare to grow. Even if others can't or won't, you must, because life is too precious and your spirit too rare to spend it hiding in someone else's shadow. Shine anyway. Type number 3. The manipulator, guarding your peace from emotional illusionists. It often starts with love, or guilt, or the quiet suggestion that if you truly cared, you'd do this one little thing, then another, and another, until one day you realize you've been pulled into a web where your needs no longer matter and your time, your energy, even your peace is no longer your own. This is the world of the manipulator. Not always loud, not always obvious, but masterful in the way they twist your heartstrings to serve their own needs. Perhaps it's a child who says, "You never did enough for me," just when you try to set a boundary. Or a friend who subtly reminds you of everything they've done for you, right before asking for yet another favor you don't have the strength to give. Manipulation is rarely a scream. It's a whisper designed to make you question yourself. And at this stage of life, you've earned the right not to question your worth every time someone wants something from you. Stoicism reminds us, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit. The manipulator only thrives when your inner boundaries are unclear, when your own voice is quiet, when guilt speaks louder than wisdom. But you can shift that balance. It begins by recognizing the pattern, the subtle use of fear, obligation, and guilt to override your freedom to choose. They may say, "But I need you, Zah," or "No one else understands me like you do." And of course you care. But care must not come at the expense of self-respect. You are not a tool for someone else's convenience. You are not a guilt-driven machine. You are a person, whole, wise, deserving of peace. To free yourself from manipulation, you do not need anger. You do not need confrontation. You need clarity, calm, and the courage to say no without explanation. You can say, "I understand this is important to you, but I need to take care of myself right now." You can say, "I'm not available for that." You can simply pause and breathe and not rush to solve what isn't yours to carry. You are not selfish for honoring your own limits, and yes, they may react, they may pout, they may push back. That's okay. It's proof that the dynamic is shifting, because the manipulator doesn't just want your help. They want your compliance. When you step back, they lose control. And that for them feels like loss. But for you, it is the beginning of freedom. You don't need to explain your worth. You don't need to defend your choices to someone who benefits from your silence. Let your no be soft but firm. Let your boundaries be gentle but unshakable. Because in the end, the most powerful defense against manipulation isn't resistance. It's self-respect. And when you choose peace over pleasing, clarity over confusion, your life becomes yours again. Type number 4, the obsessive controller. They don't always raise their voice, they don't need to. The person who tries to control you, often under the disguise of care or concern, does it subtly, persistently, and with a conviction so firm that you start to question your own choices. They correct how you fold your clothes, how you talk to others, how you spend your time. Their opinions are never just suggestions. They are rules wrapped in affection, making it hard to spot the chain that's slowly tightening. At first, it might feel harmless, even helpful. After all, you've spent your life giving to others, caring for family, adapting to those around you. A little suggestion here, a bit of advice there. But over time, the constant correction, the persistent push for compliance, starts to weigh on your spirit. You begin to feel watched, judged, as though your very way of being is always under quiet surveillance. The tragedy of the obsessive controller is that they rarely see the harm they cause. Their need for control often comes from their own fears, fear of losing relevance, fear of being left out, fear of chaos. And yet, in trying to contain life, they suffocate it, and you, in your kindness and patience, let it happen longer than you should, not out of weakness, but out of compassion. But here's the Stoic truth. Peace doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from controlling your response to them. Epictetus said, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some are not. The controller has forgotten this. You must not. You see, the more we try to manage every detail of life, the more we suffer. Because life, by its very nature, is unpredictable. People change, plans unravel, and the moment we try to grip too tightly, we end up clenching fists around sand. The more we try to shape others into our mold, the more we push them away. And in doing so, we lose not only our peace, but our relationships too. So how do you reclaim yourself in the presence of someone who tries to micromanage your very existence? You begin by drawing quiet, steady lines. Not dramatic arguments, but simple statements of autonomy. I prefer to do it this way. That's not something I want to change. I appreciate your concern, but I've got this. You begin by loosening your own fear of disappointing others. You begin by remembering that your life, especially now, should be yours. Letting go of a controller's influence isn't just about saying no to them. It's about saying yes to yourself. It's about trusting that you don't need approval to make decisions, that your choices have weight, that you've lived long enough, loved deeply enough, and suffered quietly enough to finally live by your own compass. The controller may not take it well. In fact, they may double down, but hold your ground, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with that calm, unwavering dignity that only experience can bring. Let them wrestle with their own discomfort. Let them learn that love doesn't have to look like control. Sometimes, the most loving thing we can do for ourselves and for others is to stop allowing them to shape us into who they need us to be and start becoming who we truly are. In the quiet stillness of that decision, something beautiful happens. You start to breathe again, to laugh in your own rhythm, to move through the world, not as someone who must be corrected, but as someone who is finally unapologetically free. Type number 5. Attention seeker type. At first you smile politely, maybe even laugh. After all, it's normal for people to share their stories, their little triumphs, their funny mishaps. But after a while, you notice it. The conversation isn't a dance, it's a spotlight. And there's only one performer. No matter the topic, it circles back to them. Their victories, their struggles, their opinions, their endless need to be seen, to be heard, to be the center. The attention seeker doesn't shout for attention. No, they weave it skillfully into every conversation, every gathering. They dominate not with volume, but with sheer persistence. Your joys, brushed aside, your sorrows, quickly compared and overshadowed. Slowly, you begin to feel invisible, like a guest in a show that's not yours. It's tempting to think, oh, it's harmless, they just like talking. But the harm is real, and it's subtle. Over time, your voice gets smaller. Your stories shrink. Your needs feel irrelevant, and that, my friend, is a price too high to pay, especially in this season of your life when connection, real connection, is what your heart longs for most. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What do you think happens when the thoughts that surround you are all tinted with me, me, me? You start to disappear into the background of your own life. The truth is, the attention seeker isn't usually malicious. More often, they are driven by insecurity, a deep fear that if they are not constantly noticed, they might as well not exist. It's sad, really. But your job isn't to fix their emptiness. Your job is to protect your own fullness. So, how do you stay whole in the presence of someone who consumes all the air in the room? You start by stepping into the conversation, deliberately. When you notice that familiar wave of monologue building, don't shrink back. Interrupt gently but firmly. Share your own story. Reclaim your space at the table. And if that feels too abrupt, redirect the flow. Turn to others in the group and ask about their experiences, their thoughts. Spread the light around. Remind everyone, and yourself, that conversations are meant to be shared, not monopolized. Set boundaries where needed. It's not rude to protect your emotional space. It's wise. You can say, "I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks too," or "Let's give others a chance to share." These simple phrases plant quiet flags of respect for yourself and for everyone else present. But sometimes the attention seeker won't change. They won't hear the subtle shifts. And when that happens, you have every right to limit your time with them. Because energy is a currency you must spend wisely now. You deserve conversations that nourish you, not drain you. Moments where you are seen, heard, and valued, not sidelined. And here's a truth you must hold on to tightly. You don't need to compete for attention. You don't need to raise your voice just to exist. Your presence, your wisdom, your stories, your laughter are enough. They are worthy of space simply because you are. Epictetus taught that our worth does not depend on the approval of others, but on the integrity of our own character. So stay true to yourself, speak when you wish, listen when you choose. Share your light freely, but never let anyone dim it. Because this season of your life is not about fading into the background. It's about standing tall in your own story, about surrounding yourself with people who celebrate, not overshadow, about living every conversation, every relationship, every day, fully, authentically, gloriously as yourself. And that is a life well lived. Type number 6, the opportunist. They always arrive right on time. When you have good news to share, when life is sweet, when the table is set for celebration, that's when they appear, smiling warmly, congratulating you, sitting down as if they had always been part of your story. But when the rain comes, when loneliness creeps in, when your health falters, when all you need is someone to listen, they vanish. No calls, no messages, just silence, as if they were never there at all. You may have once called them a friend, maybe even considered them family. But after enough repeated disappointments, something inside you begins to awaken. The opportunist doesn't come for you. They come for what you have. And when that fades, so do they. Old age is precious. You no longer have time to waste your energy on shallow connections. You don't need people who only show up for the fireworks. You need those who will sit quietly beside you, even when there is nothing to celebrate but the simple act of being alive. There's an old saying, a true guest stays after the party is over. A real friend doesn't wait for convenience. They don't only arrive under the spotlight. They come even when the lights are dim and the music has stopped. Sometimes, especially then. How do you recognize an opportunist? It's simpler than you think. Notice the patterns. Do they only call when they need a favor? Do they disappear when you're struggling? When you share your hardships, do they go silent, awkward, distant? Little signs, almost invisible at first, but undeniable when you finally choose to see them. When you recognize it, don't waste your energy on anger. There's no need for accusations or dramatic farewells. Just shift your energy. Limit what you share. Invest your heart more wisely. Focus on those who show up, not for what you can give, but for who you are. Seneca once wrote, "We should choose our friends as we would choose our treasures, carefully and not for show. Don't gather people like trinkets you show off. Seek those who stay when the music fades." As you begin to prioritize genuine relationships, you will feel your heart lighten. There will be no more guessing, no more wondering if you matter beyond the party lights. You will simply know. The ones who remain are the ones who are meant to stay, and there is no loneliness in that. In old age, you don't need a crowd. You need the right few, and the right, they never disappear when you need them most. Type number 7, the unstoppable gossip. At first, they seem harmless. They arrive with wide eyes, lowered voices, and just enough drama in their tone to make you lean in closer. "It's just between us," they whisper. "I probably shouldn't say this, but..." And before you realize it, your quiet cup of tea has turned into a courtroom. One person accused, another judged, all in absentia. You nod politely, maybe even chuckle uncomfortably. You tell yourself it's just talk, just noise. But the truth is heavier than it seems. Gossip doesn't just pass time. It poisons trust. It makes you wonder, what do they say about me when I'm not here? In old age, you come to treasure peace like gold. You have fewer years ahead than behind, and the last thing you need is someone clouding your spirit with suspicions and secrets. The unstoppable gossip is a master of half-truths. They wrap their words in silk, but every sentence has a hook, designed to pull you in, to spark doubt, to feed an invisible fire of comparison and judgment. At first, you may feel flattered to be trusted with such inside knowledge. But over time, you begin to feel a weight, an unease. You find yourself looking at friends with quiet suspicion, wondering what you don't know. And in that wondering, something begins to rot. Because when someone constantly speaks of others behind their backs, they teach you something without saying it directly. Loyalty isn't guaranteed, not even to you. Marcus Aurelius once reminded us, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And if your thoughts are constantly stirred by someone else's drama, your inner world will never settle into peace." So what do? We don't need to confront, to accuse, or to match their tone with sharp words. Instead, we learn the quiet art of redirection. When the gossip begins, gently steer the conversation. Shift the light. Ask about their hobbies, their dreams, the last book they read. Sometimes, all a gossip needs is a reminder that life is more interesting when we talk about ideas, not just people. And if they insist, you set a boundary, softly but firmly. I prefer not to talk about others when they're not here. Let's talk about something else. It might feel uncomfortable at first. You may fear seeming cold or too serious. But remember, setting boundaries is not about rejecting people. It's about protecting your peace. And in doing so, you often inspire others to do the same. You are not a container for someone else's bitterness. You are not a keeper of secrets that were never yours to hold. You are a guardian of your own serenity, and that serenity deserves sacred protection. So the next time the whisper comes, "Did you hear what she did?" Pause, smile, and rise above the fog of idle words. Because gossip may tickle the ear, but dignity rests in silence. Type number 8, the energy vampire. Not all exhaustion comes from work. Sometimes the heaviest fatigue comes from people. You know the type. You start the day with a calm heart, maybe even a smile. But after a single conversation, drained. Your shoulders sink. Your mind fogs over. And you're not sure what just happened, only that being around them feels like trying to swim with rocks in your pockets. This is the energy vampire. Not because they're cruel, not because they mean harm, but because they have learned, perhaps unconsciously, how to pull from others what they lack in themselves. They speak in sighs, in complaints, in endless loops of helplessness. They want your advice, your comfort, your attention. Always. But when you need a listening ear, they vanish into mist. It's not the story they tell that drains you. It's the lack of pause, the never-ending taking, the silence when it's your turn to speak. And at this stage of life, your energy is sacred. It's the fire that warms your quiet mornings. It's the light you give to your grandchildren, your garden, your thoughts. Why give it away so carelessly to someone who sees your peace as a power source for their chaos? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Ask yourself, is this essential?" Let us ask the same. Is this relationship essential? Is this exchange nourishing or depleting? We cannot isolate ourselves entirely, nor should we. But we can learn the art of tending to our inner garden. Picture your energy as a quiet, walled sanctuary. There are flowers blooming, birds nesting, sunlight pouring in. Would you let someone trample that garden every morning just because they needed to vent? Would you allow muddy shoes, chaotic winds, and careless footsteps to flatten what you've spent years building? Number, you'd guard the gate, kindly but firmly. And so it is with your spirit. You can't always avoid the energy vampire. Sometimes they live close. Sometimes they've been in your life for years. But you can protect yourself. Before a conversation with someone who tends to drain you, try this. Close your eyes. Picture yourself wrapped in golden light, soft, warm, impenetrable. This is your energy shield. Their words may come, their needs may spill, but your light doesn't dim, your center stays calm. And when the conversation begins to pull too deeply, remember that silence is also a sentence. You don't owe responses to every complaint. You don't have to absorb pain just because someone places it at your feet. Say gently, "I hear you, but I'm not in the space to carry this today." Or, "Maybe you should speak to someone who can help in a deeper way." It's not rejection, it's self-respect. And if guilt creeps in, whisper this Stoic truth to yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You were not born to be drained. Your calmness is a gift, not a resource for others to extract. So protect your joy, preserve your clarity, and keep your light burning not for everyone, but for everything that still fills you with life. Because your energy, now more than ever, is not just fuel, it's freedom. As we grow older, we begin to realize something profound, that peace is not something we stumble upon. It is something we build, brick by brick, moment by moment, boundary by boundary. And the people we allow into our lives, they shape the very walls of that peace. Some bring warmth. They walk in quietly, sit beside us, ask how we are, and really mean it. Their presence feels like home. But others leave muddy footprints on the floor of our hearts. They drain, they demand, they complain, they compete. And for too long, many of us have let them stay because we didn't want to be rude, or because we believed we had no choice. But here's the truth. Stoicism reminds us again and again. You always have a choice. You can't choose who knocks on the door, but you can choose who gets to come inside. This doesn't mean we become bitter. It doesn't mean we isolate ourselves. It means we learn the wisdom of discernment, of seeing clearly who adds to our well-being and who takes from it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." But I would add, it also depends on the quality of your company. Who surrounds you matters, because at this stage of life, your time is too precious to waste. Your peace is too sacred to gamble, and your energy is too limited to give away to those who only take. So what do we do now? We pause, we reflect, and then we choose. We choose to slowly prune the garden of our relationships, not with anger, but with clarity, not out of cruelty, but out of deep self-respect. We learn to say no without guilt, to listen without absorbing, to love without allowing that love to become our prison. And most of all, we begin to turn inward. Because the greatest source of peace will never be found in another person. It is in how you treat yourself. Do you respect your own boundaries? Do you value your time, your presence, your energy? Start there, with one small shift, one lighter conversation, one boundary held, one person you spend a little less time with, one quiet afternoon spent in your own good company, and little by little the air becomes clearer. Your spirit begins to breathe again, and you start to notice something. You feel lighter, you laugh more, you sleep more peacefully, because peace is not a place, it's a decision. And you have the right, you always have the right, to choose it. Let the rest of your life be defined not by who tries to drain you, but by how you rise above. Not by the noise of others, but by the calm you build within. Not by old roles you felt trapped in, but by the freedom you now claim. You deserve a life filled with presence, not pressure, with warmth, not worry, with real companionship, not emotional debts. So choose peace, choose dignity, choose you. Because in the end, the relationships that matter will honor the person you are becoming, not the one who tolerated too much. And those who cannot handle your boundaries were never truly for you. This chapter is yours to write. Write it in bold, calm letters, with honesty, with courage, with love, for yourself. Because that, dear friend, is the greatest gift you can give to your remaining years. And it starts today. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who may need to hear it today. Your support helps this community grow, and bring Stoic wisdom to more hearts around the world. Let us walk this journey of peace and self-respect, together, one quiet truth at a time.